If they want to. My understanding from speaking with you off the record that the defense didn't really want to do a closing. So that's why I was asking you for your closing. But if that's
I don't know whether defense counsel wanted to or not. But
all right, defense, do you want to get closing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, then I'll hear your closing.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, as the court was aware during cross-examination a couple of days ago, the only officer that stopped Mr. Davis testified that the alleged traffic offense, that he saw being committed was not recorded. I asked him when I talked and described as to the reason for the stop, he initially said, well, his headlamps were turned off, or he didn't have the number of requisite headlamps as per the transportation code. When he confirmed on the stand that as per the transportation code, my client had more than two, he had three functioning headlamps, so much so that during the video, if the court recalls, the officer testifies that the headlamps in my client's car were working. Therefore, Judge, we have testimony from the officer that the alleged traffic offense of not having any functioning headlamps is completely false. Secondly, Judge, after we move on from that point, the officer goes on a narrative in which he's trying to tell the court what the officer, would do in this situation. The transportation code and the penal code don't read that way. The transportation code and the penal code read that my client or the individual who is alleged to have been committing an evading offense needs to be clearly shown as evading law enforcement. If the court recalls from the video, during the entire length of the officer following my client doesn't speed, doesn't turn off his lights, does not drive in excess of the speed limit, does not drive under the speed limit, does not avoid traffic, does not flee from the officer. Additionally, my client goes so much as to take the extra step and notify the officer by turning on his hazard lights. The officer makes it a point to say that there were multiple shopping locations or shopping centers on the left side of the highway in which my client could have turned. Well, Judge, then I questioned the officer on Texas DPS, the driving manual, which states that when being followed by law enforcement, a driver has to stop, or rather must go to the right and stop in a place that's well lit and safe, not only for himself, but law enforcement behind him. So when I questioned the officer as to whether or not my client could have stopped on the right, being that it's a construction zone, being that there was nothing but grass and dirt and it was not lit, the officer said, well, I don't know, but I could have stopped there. As we proceed through the stop, through the video, Your Honor, again, you continue to see that at no point in time did my client commit any additional traffic offenses other than the alleged traffic offense, which again was not recorded. The officer testified that my client was driving a vehicle that was not stolen. He was driving a vehicle with a seatbelt on. There was nothing that my client was doing as he was driving that warranted a traffic stop. As the officer continues to follow my client with his hazard lights turns to the right as he should, and then parks in an area where the officer testified there's no cars coming back and forth, thereby making it safe for my client and law enforcement to continue this interaction. At no point in time did my client evade any arrest or detention. My client simply drove to find a place to stop. We know that he did not flee. We know that he didn't even intend to evade arrest or detention. He was simply looking for a safe place to stop. And as he was doing so, he notified the officer behind him by turning his hazard lights and maintaining a safe rate of speed. And for those reasons, Your Honor, I ask the court to find my client not guilty of the offense of evading arrest or detention.
After reviewing everything, listening to the testimony and seeing State's Exhibit Number 1, the court will find the defendant not guilty. Is there anything else from either side?
Not from defense counsel.
Thank you.